You ready? You figured it out yet?
It's uploading.
Okay.
Nancy, it says that you're now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah.
You ready? You figured it out yet?
Yep, it's uploading.
Okay.
We are there. Oh.
Nancy, it says that you're now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah.
You ready? You figured it out yet?
Yep, it's uploading.
Okay.
We're there. Oh. And we are also recording regular.
You ready? You ready?
Nancy, it says that you're now streaming
Oh,
live on YouTube.
Someone has their YouTube going in the background. Who has their YouTube in the background?
Somebody's got YouTube on in the background. Could they please mute it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
You ready?
I think so. We are recording.
Okay. Let's go. I call this council workshop meeting of April 6, 2021 to order at 7:34 p.m. Will everybody please rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please read the Open Public Meetings Act?
This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was included in a notice sent to the Record and the Star Ledger and advertised in said newspapers on January 9th, 2021, posted on the city's website and has remained continuously posted as the required notices under the statute. A copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et seq, and Local Finance Notice 2020-21, new emergency regulations, remote public meetings held during a declared emergency, issued by the Local Finance Board on September 24th, 2020, and NJAC 5:39-1, emergency remote meeting protocol for local public bodies establishing standard protocols. The City of Englewood, the City Council of the City of Englewood adopted resolution number 001-01-04-21, authorizing the City of Englewood schedule of council meetings for 2021 to be held remotely via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by calling or clicking on the link below at 7:30 p.m. Please see the link on our website or by calling 929-205-6099. The meeting ID for this meeting is 880-8245-8471, and the passcode is 679430. Individuals calling into this number will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. Public comments may be submitted by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, either through written letter or email to meeting@cityofenglewood.org. All written comments shall be read during the public forum portion of the meeting and shall be subject to the same time limitations for public speaking. Duplicative comments shall be noted for the record and summarized. The agenda for the meeting can be found on the city's website at www.cityofenglewood.org. A separate meeting will be used if closed session is required. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilman Cohen?
Here.
Councilman Hamer?
Here.
Councilwoman Marin?
She's muted.
Here. I see you nodding.
Yes. Here.
Thank you. Councilman Rosenzweig?
Here.
Council President Cobb?
Here.
Also present is Mayor Michael Wild, City Attorney Bill Bailey, and City Manager Sonia Alves Viveros.
Okay. Next, we have special presentations, resolution 112-04-06-21, honoring Police Chief Lawrence Suffren. We have a motion to approve 112 and a second.
Second.
So moved.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilwoman Maren,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Council President Cobb.
Yes. At this time, we're going to open up the floor to the council members, and then we're going to give the floor to Chief Lawrence Suffering.
Council President, would it be okay to read the resolution
Yes.
into the record?
Yes, please. We'll let the city
Okay.
manager read the resolution into the record.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Resolution honoring Police Chief Lawrence Suffren, whereas City of Englewood Chief of Police Lawrence Suffren retired on April 1st, 2021, completing a career that spanned 33 years, a tenure that has been marked with distinction from the day he joined the department on July 6, 1987, as a dispatcher and through his promotion to chief on January 1st, 2014. And whereas Chief Suffren has exercised strong and effective leadership throughout his years of professional service to the City of Englewood Police Department and his membership in such organizations as the Bergen County Police Chiefs Association. And whereas Chief Suffren, a long life resident of the City of Englewood, has demonstrated extraordinary devotion to his community through his steadfast commitment to securing the safety and welfare of its citizenry, and has received varied commendations for his participation with many organizations throughout the city. And whereas Chief Suffren is admired by his friends and family, his colleagues, and the residents of the City of Englewood as a concerned and conscientious citizen whose devotion to duty and professional excellence have brought pride to his community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Englewood, Bergen County, New Jersey, commend Englewood Chief of Police Lawrence Suffren for his many valuable years of service and leadership, and extend their sincerest wishes for a long and happy retirement. Thank you, Chief. First, I'd just like to say a couple words. As I'd mentioned last week during our very responsible little get together with our department heads, professionally as a colleague in this short period of time, it was a pleasure. Your professionalism to get to know the city, quite frankly, firsthand from a resident, and yourself as the chief was very valuable. So again, I want to thank you for your service and your commitment to the city.
Chief, this is Wayne. Just wanted to say thank you very much, sincerely thank you for everything you've done for Englewood and everything you've tried to do for Englewood. We continue to owe you a debt of gratitude. And I wish you every bit of happiness, you and Courtney, and God bless. Thank you.
Chief, this is Michael. Just to wish you the same love that Wayne wished you. It's very special when somebody serves 30 years, 33 years, and starts at the age of 18. It's because you love the city, and it showed in the exemplary way that you served. And it's really a wonderful treat to your family to have you young and healthy at this next chapter of your life. And we wish you the same safety and security that you enshrined for us these last years. May God bless you and keep you in good health. And a hearty thank you on behalf of all the residents that we all serve.
Chief, this is Judy Marin. On behalf of not only myself, but the residents of the third ward, I want you to know you have a lot of fans in my neighborhood, and I've heard only wonderful things about you, and I thank you so much for devoting so much of yourself to our safety, and you represented us nobly. Thank you so much.
Next.
Hi, this is Ken Rosenzweig, Chief. As I said to you last week, we worked very closely together last time I was on the council, and one thing I was looking forward to was the chance to work with you again, this time in your capacity as chief. So I only got 3 months, but it was still something I greatly appreciate, and given the short time, you've been a great resource. And more so, the devotion of your career to the people of Englewood and to helping in their safety always had an open door, always, quick to help out and to really, have your duty done. I mentioned last week, I'm looking forward to a very exciting Act 2 for you, or it might be Act 3 at this point. And I wish you all the best for you and your entire family, and Godspeed in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Colin?
Chief, it's funny because, looking at you even on Zoom, I think this is the first time I've ever seen you at a meeting in civilian clothing. So it's a new thing I gotta guess I gotta get used to now, But listen, we've been working together. It's hard to believe, almost a dozen years now, and we've been through a lot together, and the city and yourself and all of us have been through a lot together, and you've always kept us together. You've always kept us safe. You've always been there. It's been a real pleasure, to have you. Listen. One of the things I always look for is accessibility, which you were in spades. Whenever we had an issue, you were always there. You always answered your phone, even if we were bugging you on a Saturday night. You answered your phone and you helped and you got through, and and that kind of stuff is purely demonstrative of your commitment to what you do, and your dedication and your desire to be there for the people of Englewood and for all the people that you served. And you've been a tremendous asset for the city, for such a long time. I, as everybody else, wish you a very, very long and enjoyable retirement. And I guess now I look forward to seeing you like this, bumping into you in ShopRite.
Yeah.
Chief, it's been an honor working with you for the last few years. You've always been there for anything I've needed, helping out. You're going to be sorely missed. I see you're relaxed as it is, and this is a nice beginning for you. So please enjoy your retirement, and come visit every once in a while.
Franz, I'll see you up there.
I'm going to say what nobody else is saying. I'm jealous. I'm sorry. Chief, we have had, wow. It's been, God, is it almost touching 30? It's been 25 plus years. Nothing but the best, obviously. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. It's unfortunate that some of the improvements that are going to happen at your building, you're not going to get around to see it. But you fought hard for it. Everyone underneath you, you fought hard for the police department, for the city as a whole. It's nothing but good things, man. I wish you nothing but the best.
Hey, Mr. Bailey, he has a few words.
Council President, I think Franz might be the only one that has me beat in terms of having the pleasure and privilege in length of time to serve with Chief Suffern. Chief, it's just been a privilege and an honor to work side by side with you, just as a lawyer, not as a law enforcement guy, but just with the challenges and issues that have been presented to the city, at least during my term, both when you were deputy chief, which is right around when I started, and later as chief. So congrats. Enjoy the retirement. And as Councilman Rosenzweig said, the second or third phase of your career, you got a bright one ahead of you, that's for sure. And I too am jealous. But thanks again, Chief. And again, it's a privilege to work with you.
Mr. Vinci, I don't want to leave you out there, but I don't know how well you know the chief. I don't know if you had any contact with him, but I try to get everybody who's on this pain here to say a few words.
I appreciate that, Chief. I have not had the pleasure of really working with you directly, but I've heard a lot of great words about you, and I just wish you and your family the best of luck in the future, your future endeavors. And I am sure your future will be very successful as it was as chief for the city. And congratulations again.
So now I guess it's my turn. Okay, so Chief, 33 years, long time serving this community, and it has its twists and turns. But you are an example of someone who started at the bottom and worked his way all the way to the top, and that's a true testament to who you are as a person. I think that this gives an example of our young people who want to go into law enforcement, who live here locally or wherever, can say you could reach the highest by just working hard. So, you are an example, and you're a walking example of it. So hopefully you can get a chance to enjoy your retirement with you and Courtney and your family, and do the things that you want to do now. As Ken Rosenzweig said, the third phase of your life, you get to enjoy it. And I think it's important that you do that. But you've also left us in a space where we have some new tools coming on board, such as body cameras and some other things, some technology things that you spearheaded that. So you have left us with some things that we can work with, so we could provide the type of services to our community. So I thank you for those things, as well as your service. And enjoy it, man. You look relaxed there. You don't even have your glasses on today, maybe contacts or something like that. But again, thank you for that, and stay around. We may have to pick your brain every now and then for some guidance on that stuff. But the things that you've left and people don't even know, and they may not know the impact, I thank you for those things there. And we'll roll them out. And as you see us rolling down the street, you'll say, I help implement that stuff. So you have a legacy there. So I'm going to give you the floor. You're the person of the moment. So please have the floor. Thank you so much.
Well, first, I'd like to say good evening to everybody. And I'd like to say it's been a true honor to be able to work for the city of Englewood and dedicate my entire adult life to making sure that the residents of Englewood were safe and secure. And it was a privilege to be able to work from the bottom all the way up to the top, to be able to say that I was instrumental in every aspect that I could possibly be in within the department and the city as a whole. There are some great team members here. Like Franz said, I think him and I are probably the longer standing relationship people here. Then Bill came on, but it's been a true honor to be able to work side by side with some of the best people in the city to make sure that the city has been moved forward and progressed as it has. I do look forward as a resident to being able to make contributions to the city in the future in whatever way I could possibly do that in. And I look forward to being able to spend time with my family. As a lot of people know, law enforcement takes away from some of the family obligations that you have, during the time when you can't spend weekends, holidays, special events. And I'm looking forward to being able to recoup some of that in the future and enjoy life as it should be. If nothing else, as 2020 has shown us, life isn't promised, and we have to learn to appreciate life for what it is. And I'm looking forward to taking that appreciation to a different level and spending it with family and friends in a most positive way that I can. And I thank you as the representatives of the city for giving me the opportunity to serve the city in the various capacities that I did. And again, thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Chief. Now we'll let you go back and enjoy the rest of your evening, because I'm sure you're getting used to how to enjoy those things without the phone ringing.
Absolutely. And I'd also like to say thank you to the city manager and the other city individuals for the nice plaque that I received for my retirement. It was very much appreciated.
Oh, can you show it to us? Did we see it? We didn't see it, did they? Nah.
I think we circulated an email around just to show you all what it looks like, but it is.
Yeah, we got a photo.
It's glass, so it's a little difficult, but.
Okay.
Quite beautiful.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Chief. Be well.
Truly an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, man. We're going to move on to our next item on the budget. Resolution 113-04-06-21, approval of bills and claims. We need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 113 in the amount of $29,871,991.49.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Anybody have questions?
Yes.
Please. It's a
Mr.
big
Vinci-
number tonight.
Mr. Vinci, I know most of what's here is a single line item along with the interest, but would you just explain why we have such a large bills and claims number tonight?
Yes.
Hold on one second, Gary. Mr. Hamer, why don't we just be direct? Why don't we just go to those two items in the back that make up 90% of this thing? Why don't we just shoot for that? Let them explain that, just walk us through that.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, just go to page 101 in the back.
We're
Mr. Vinci.
specifically talking about the Chase New York City 2021 notes retired for bond sale for
Well,
28 million.
we want Mr. Vinci to talk to that to the public.
Sure.
And what's the advantage of what we've just done, and some of the benefits or the benefit to the city, to the residents of the city of Englewood.
Be happy to, Mr. President. The payment of the $28,330,000 was actually referring to a bond issue that the city authorized early of 2021, and on March 17th, you actually obtained bids for long-term bonds. The city issued 14-year bonds, and the interest rate, well, the proceeds of the bonds were used to pay down the notes that is referred to in the bills list. The bonds, the city did unbelievably well with the interest rate. You had 8 bidders. The low interest rate, when you look at the net interest cost, which factors in the premium that the city received, the net interest cost was 1.45%. If I go back 2 years ago, which was the last bond sale that the city authorized, the net interest cost of that sale was 2.96%. So the interest rate was incredibly low. City took advantage of the market, and by going to the bond market, it provided the city with stability for their future debt amortization that will mature over the next 15 years. So the city did incredibly well.
Mr. Hamer, you okay with that?
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Vinci, as our auditors, we did the right thing financially for the city, right?
Absolutely. You took advantage of the low interest rate environment, took advantage that the city credit rating is a AA, and by having a AA rating, the debt instrument paper of the city is very worthwhile from an investor. And that's why your interest rates that you were able to obtain were very competitive. You actually had 5 bids under 1.5%. That's how competitive it was. So city did exceptionally well.
And I'm going to ask you another question. If we hadn't taken advantage of this opportunity, what potentially exposure could the city, the exposure to the city financially?
Well, if you deferred the actual bond issue, you would have been subject to the rate a year from now. So if the interest rates do increase, obviously you would be paying a higher interest rate in that year as well as in all future years. So you actually provided the taxpayer with the benefit of securing such a low interest rate. So this year's budget, not to go ahead, but this year's budget actually has a decrease, I believe, in debt service as a result.
Thank you. And that's one of the things we try to do in terms of debt management plan. Isn't that right, Mr. Councilman Hamer? We've been screaming about.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? I do. On page 5 of 6, Mr. Volsi, you probably can answer this question. 5 of 6, replacement of City Hall boiler, $37,800.
Yes, we had, and this came as an emergency, and that's actually more Ed Roy's.
Could somebody be getting some feedback?
Oh.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just hear something in the background. Go ahead.
We had an emergency with the boiler at City Hall. There were some issues with the boiler and it had to be replaced, and that's what that's about. We had Party Cooling come in and replace the boiler at City Hall.
Okay.
It's been running on borrowed time for some time now, so
Okay.
we finally had to get it replaced.
On page 3 of 6, Mr. Volsi, this is you again, I believe. 8,160. It says generator repair. We have a generator somewhere we are repairing?
We have 3 generators. We have one at the police, one at the fire, and one at the DPW. They're
Okay.
emergency generators, and Cooper Power System actually maintains the generators for us.
All right. So this? It looks like a repair,
Yeah,
not a replacement.
yeah, it looks like something happened. I believe that was at the police station. They had to repair one of the parts of the generators had to be replaced. I believe that one was at the police station.
Okay. And I guess, Sonia, you can answer this. We got $5,000 worth of flags. Page 3 of 6. If I'm not mistaken, flags $5,096.94.
That's probably a DPW.
Mhm.
I'd have to look into that and I'll follow up.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so we could do the roll call if nobody else has any questions. Yo.
Okay, Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Hager.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear. Thank you. Councilwoman Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Council President Cobb.
Yes. I declare the motion carried and the bills and claims duly approved. Next, we have 2021 municipal budget ordinance 2103 for first reading. We need a motion to introduce ordinance 21-03 entitled calendar year 2021 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a Caf Bank.
So moved.
Second.
Question?
Questions? Any questions?
Yes. Would either Mr. Vinci or the city manager explain for the public what the establishment of a Caf Bank is?
I'd be happy to. So the state allows each municipality to increase the cap to 3.5% of last year's appropriations. You automatically receive 1%. So the Caf Bank is the differential, or 2.5%. From the city's perspective, that 2.5% is $1,366,000. It goes in a bank for future use. And the reason why the ordinance is important to be acted on is that without the adoption, right now you're introducing this ordinance, but without adopting it at a future meeting, you will not have the ability to increase the bank from this year's budget. The purpose of the bank is to basically provide an insurance policy should your future budget years require an increase in appropriations that are subject to the cap. Most of your operating costs are inside the cap. It has no bearing on the tax levy. It's only on the spending side of the budget. And as I mentioned, it's basically creating a bank for possible needs in the future. The way this budget has been crafted by the council, you're not even using any portion of this bank in this year's budget. So it will be available for budget years 22 and 23.
Mr. Vincent, one other question. Did we use the Caf Bank money that was established last year?
No, not in this year's budget.
Mr. Vincent, there's another. Did we use it in any prior year that you've audited?
I don't remember the city using the Caf Bank in the past, not that I'm aware of for the appropriations. It's a safety measure that you're creating.
Understood. Just want people to understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
So, Mr. Vinci, why do we have to go through this whole voting procedure? And this is a leading question, obviously, as to why we just can't put it aside, why it wasn't put aside in any circumstance. So why do we have this whole process for the Caf Bank?
It's really a statutory requirement that if you did not introduce the ordinance, the ability to add to your bank would not be available. So it's just a mechanism that the state requires each municipality to follow to add to a bank. It's not saying that you will need it. If something happened in the future, and an example, some towns have experienced increases in pension. Those that have private garbage haulers have seen a 20% increase. The city doesn't have that. But if you had salary payments greater than the cap, you would have, you may need a bank in the future. So the process is to adopt the ordinance and provide a bank that will be available should the city ever need to tap into it. And as I mentioned earlier, I do not believe the city has tapped into the appropriation cap in the past few years.
Any other questions? And Mr. Bailey, I believe we missed a part, right? I have to read into the record. I move that this ordinance be passed on first reading.
If you're done with the discussion, yeah.
You're breaking up, Mr. Bailey. Say that again.
He's frozen.
There you go. You're back, Bill.
Oh, yeah, if the discussion is over, you move to pass on first reading and take a vote.
Right. So that's what I got. I move that this ordinance pass on first reading and be published once by title only in the record, and that the public hearing be held.
You need to vote on it first, Councilman Cobb.
Excuse me?
You need to vote on it first.
Okay.
I call the rule. Yeah.
Okay.
Do a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cohen?
No.
Councilman Hamer?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilwoman Marin?
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes. Now, Mr. Bailey, I can go to vote, right? Bill?
You say that it's passed on first reading and will be published, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I move that this ordinance be passed on first reading, published once, has been passed, and be published once by title only in the record, and the public hearing be held on May 4th, 2021. I declare the motion carried. Next, we have resolution 114-0406-21, utilization of the 3-year average method to calculate the maximum miscellaneous revenues. Mr. Vinci, could you speak to that?
Yes, be happy to. With the pandemic that everybody was affected by last year, the state actually provided flexibility for all municipalities with regard to how to budget for miscellaneous revenues. In the past, the guideline was that whatever you as a government entity collected in the previous year, that was the maximum you were allowed to anticipate in the following year. Realizing that there were significant impacts to various departments and that the realization of revenue in 2020 was extremely limited with regard to departments such as the municipal court, parking meters, parking fees. The state allowed all municipalities to use a 3-year average. This year's budget actually utilized a 3-year average for 2 revenue sources, one being the municipal court and the second being the parking meters. So the average of the 3 years is the ceiling now, as opposed to just the prior year. And this year's budget is actually for both revenue accounts slightly less than the 3-year average. So it's a new format of calculations. I do not know if it will be available in 2022, but it was a legislative action taken last year to provide flexibility for all municipalities statewide.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Vinci?
Move to adopt.
Okay, Mr. Hamer. So we need a second, right?
Second.
Second. Yancy, roll call.
Councilman Cohen? Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin?
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes. Next, resolution 115-0406-21, cancellation of 2020 special emergency authorization, COVID-19. Mr. Vinci, can you give us a little background on that one?
Yes, as a matter of reference, the city council approved the special emergency resolution in December of 2020. The resolution was acted on because of potential revenue shortfalls that the city was experiencing last year. The resolution provided that this $1.1 million would basically reimburse the city for revenue shortfalls. And at that time, there was a lengthy discussion about approving that action and then evaluating the financial condition of the city after the unaudited annual financial statement was prepared and submitted to the state. Based on where the city closed out operations at the end of 2020, your surplus change from the end of 19 to the end of 20 was only $200,000. If you kept the special emergency on the books, your surplus would have increased, but you would have had to budget the special emergency starting in year 2020, 1/5 per year. So in consultation with Sonia and Michael, the discussion really ensued whether the special emergency was really necessary because your operations were only $200,000 apart from the prior year. So to eliminate the need for the city to budget monies in years 22 to 25, the resolution would basically cancel the action taken by the council in December of 20. So the special emergency in effect would be eliminated. There's no future budget needs. And the city surplus was really not impacted. There were certain items that maybe were not adjusted as we talked about, but overall, the financial condition of the city is still very strong. And that's why the recommendation before the council is to cancel the special emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Vinci. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Vinci? Because he used some encouraging words coming out of the pandemic. Would you say, Mr. Vinci, very strong? Or what was the word you used?
The financial condition is very strong, very healthy. Keep in mind where the city's surplus was a few years ago.
Sure.
The surplus has been trending in the positive, positive action there.
Okay.
Move to adopt.
Yep.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Council President Cobb.
Yes. Next, resolution 116-040621. Resolution introducing the 2021 city budget. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Can we have some bullet points about the budget, just so the public knows?
I don't know, Mr. Vinci, are you going to do that, or Sonia, you need to do that? It's your budget. Some key highlights.
Sure, I can add to some of what Mr. Vinci has said already. Garrett, do you want to go ahead and then I'll chime in?
Sure. Okay. I'm sorry. And I believe Michael has prepared a memo for the city council and the mayor. The budget tonight is it's only $10,000 more than the prior year. And the action tonight is to introduce the budget. Keep in mind that next month at the May 4th hearing, there will be a public hearing for any of the residents to discuss the budget of 2021, answer questions from the governing body. And at that time, you can decide as a city council whether to adopt the budget or to amend the budget. The budget right now is only in a preliminary stage. May would be the time that you would have to decide whether you would like to adopt that. If you did adopt the budget as submitted before the governing body, the tax levy would increase. And I believe the actual municipal city tax rate would go from 1.233 to 1.257, which is a 1.98% increase. And I believe when you look at an average home, which I believe is what Michael calculated, using, I think, $467,000, the impact right now is $114 per year, or approximately $9.50 per month. And as I mentioned, the hearing would be scheduled for next month, at which time you can have a discussion about any particular line item, or you can make any amendments to that. The state is not required to review your budget this year. Your CFO will certify the budget, which actually expedites the budget process because the Division of Local Government Services typically gets extremely backlogged in the months of May and June to certify city budgets. So it's actually a positive that you're able to what we call is local review of your budget.
I have a question.
Yes, Judy.
Does the new budget take into account the savings on the bonds and notes that we just refinanced?
Yes, it does. So the bonds that were issued a few weeks ago, you would actually have an interest payment due in the fall of 21. Since the interest rates were so low, the interest expense that is budgeted was actually less than what was forecasted months ago at this time. So yes, this year's budget has taken into account the reduced interest rate as a result of last month's bond sale.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And that's why we held off from introducing the budget to this meeting rather than the prior meeting on the 16th, knowing that the bond sale was going to happen.
Thanks, Sonia.
Ken?
So, Mr. Vinci, so in typical years, the DCA would review the budget?
So what the state did a few years ago, because of the fact that they have limited staff now, as most state agencies do, they being the Division of Local Government, will review a budget only once every 3 years. The other 2 years, the Chief Financial Officer will certify that the budget is in compliance with all budgetary laws promulgated by the state.
Okay, so is this year one of our 2 off years?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, all right. And so it's Department of Local Governments, not Department of Consumer Affairs?
It's the Division of Local Government Services, which is under the umbrella of Department of Community Affairs.
Community Affairs,
Right.
excuse me. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have
Yes.
one question. Mr. Vinci, by approving, and Mr. Volsi, this goes to you as well, by having local review and approval by our CFO or signing off by our CFO, does that allow us to get out our capital projects a lot sooner?
So the capital budget that is in the budget document before you is a plan right now. Once the budget is adopted, the city council can authorize the introduction of a capital ordinance, which would then allow for the preparation of various specifications for the projects that you would be undertaking. City council still has to adopt that ordinance. So there would be a time delay from the adoption of the budget and when you finally adopt the capital ordinance for the various capital projects.
Good.
So I'm sorry,
Go
just
ahead.
want to finish this. But by not having to go to the Division of Local Government Services and waiting for their approval, it does expedite the process.
Yes, it does.
So I ask you to take note, Mr. Volsi, because that means you get to work on these things a whole lot faster.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Because what we could do, Mr. Vinci, correct me if I'm wrong, at our next meeting, even though we will adopt the budget, supposedly or possibly, the other part of it, we could be preparing for as well, the next steps, right? At that
Yes, you
meeting as
can.
well.
Yes, you can.
Right. So then, we should be hearing something from our CFO about that piece of it, the capital part of the budget, so we could get that going as well. Makes sense, right? Makes sense, right?
Yes.
That's what typically happens is the
sense.
introduction to the capital ordinance.
Right. So
Within the plan.
so we should be seeing that as part of the agenda item as well, but
On the 20th, yes.
on it, right. So,
That's not to say that Mr. Volsi isn't in the background doing all of the designs for the potential
I
capital
have no choice.
planning that's soon to happen. So there's still work being in the background. So as soon as that 20-day stopple period happens, we're
Mhm.
full steam ahead.
okay. All right. Nancy, I believe we have a roll call, right?
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Council President Cobb.
Yes. Next, we have ordinances for public hearing and second reading. Ordinance 2102. Consideration will now be given to ordinance 2102. Will the city clerk please read the ordinance by title?
Okay. This is an ordinance fixing salaries of the firefighters of the fire department of the city of Englewood effective for the years 2018, 2019, and 2020.
Mr. Vinci, I don't know if you're speaking to this, but I believe Sonia will. Can you give us a little background?
Sure. This was the firefighters, I believe it's the 3260 contract that was approved for the years 2018 through 2020. Typically, the city council sets this by ordinance, so this is just to have a second reading in order for us to go ahead and make those adjustments within the next 30 days for the payroll cycle. Now that the contracts, that the 3-year previous year's contracts are settled.
Mr. Vinci, do you have anything you would like to add?
No. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, this is, I'm not sure the auditor gets involved in this stuff, but it's
Right.
really to perfect the salaries that were agreed upon in the agreement by resolution. Since the city has a citywide salary ordinance, that has to be updated periodically to reflect the changes in salaries, whether it's fire, unclassified, or what have you. So.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions before I open it up to the public? No? I declare that the public hearing on this ordinance is now open. If anyone who desires to be heard or to ask questions concerning this ordinance, he or she will be heard at this time. Please come forward, raise your hand at the bottom of the screen and give your name and your address for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to place your comments or state your comments. Yancy.
No one's raising their hand.
Okay. If no one else wishes to be heard, I will close the public hearing.
Pick up, someone did. You want me to call on them?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Ms. Frizzell?
Hello, can you hear me, Yancy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Alita Frizzell at 99 Fairfield Street in Englewood. And I just wanted to thank the council president and Councilman Rosenzweig. I saw on Facebook that you recently came out to a site, I believe it was on Broad Avenue. It was in the 2nd Ward. There was a gas leak, I believe. And I had seen that's been taken care of now, correct? There's also a traffic problem.
Council President?
Ms. Vizel, this is, you have to come back to the other public part of the meeting. This is just specific to this particular ordinance that we have a second reading to, okay?
Okay.
You can finish your comment. Yeah, you could come back, and when we open it up, you can.
I'll be back.
Yeah, you can come back. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yancy, anybody else? If nobody.
Yes, Ricky.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I want to understand some of the some of the underlying problems with these things from 2018, 2019 down to 2021, and now you're doing something about it. I don't get it. I mean, I'm lost. How do you make an adjustment 3 years after the fact? How does that work? Maybe somebody with a brain could tell me that.
Mr. Bailey, you want to explain?
Can you tell me?
This was done by Labor Council in conjunction with the interim city manager. It actually goes back that far, and it had to be done retroactively because there was not an agreement for those years. It was agreed upon just, I forget if it was in February or March, and which is why it had to be done retroactively.
And so we giving them more money, less money? What's going on?
I wasn't involved in the negotiation of this. I don't know the particulars of it, but it's retroactive to 2018, 19, and 20.
So who knows the particulars? I mean, what's the sense of asking a question if everybody, so who knows the particulars?
Sonia,
Does the new
could
city
you answer the
manager know?
question?
Are we asking specifically about the rates?
Yes.
Or what are we asking specifically about?
I want to know the rates. Like, show me the money. What's the money? What are we doing here?
Okay.
I mean, you guys just say something.
Okay. If we go over to ordinance 2102, the new contract, there is a 1% increase from steps 1 through. So there's two things here we have to look at. In the new contract, there's a 1% increase through steps 1 through 5, and then 6 at 2%. Those hired after January 1st, 2005, steps 1 through 7, it's a 1% increase. Steps 8 is a 2%. And those hired after October 1st, 2011, steps 1 through 7, 1% again. And then at the 8th step, it is a 2% increase. So it is a contractual obligation. We have to do this in good faith. It's part of labor negotiations, having done this in my past. So we have an obligation to do this.
Yeah, I mean, even though you guys tried to answer my question, so what did Mr. Hines do? The last interim manager, which was, I guess, Jewel Thompson Chin. You know, what at that junction, what did we do then about this? Bailey just said that the previous city manager, the interim manager, did something. What was done?
They were negotiating it.
But she made a decision, right?
Well, the governing body makes the ultimate decision, but it was negotiated, and I don't know about this situation, but when there is a disagreement, it goes to a binding arbitration typically.
But you're the lawyer, Bill. Haven't you read the paperwork?
Yeah, Mr. Wilby, just be clear, I'm not the labor lawyer. I don't do that area law. I don't get involved in collective bargaining agreements. I'm just trying to be helpful tonight.
Oh, you're helpful, but you don't know anything.
Well, like I said, I don't, because I'm not a labor attorney and was not involved. We have other attorneys in the city that handle things. I was not part of any of these discussions, nor should I be.
All right. Well, I thought I could get some pro bono advice from an attorney that's trying to be helpful. Thanks for nothing.
You're welcome.
Yancy,
No one else has their hand raised.
I'll close this public hearing. And I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig,
Yes.
Council President Cobb.
Yes, I declare the motion carried and the ordinance duly adopted, and that the ordinance be published once by title only in the record. Going forward, Bill, what would help going forward when we have things like this, and Sonia, we need to bring these, will probably be helpful to bring the labor attorney in and have him sit in on it for any questions that we may have from the public. Okay, going forward.
Okay.
And that's just helpful to all of us. Next, we have resolutions 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, and 122. I'll ask anybody for the public who wishes to speak on these resolutions. And ask the public to state their name, address before speaking.
Point of order.
Yep, Mr. Hamer.
Council President, if you would you ask the city manager or city clerk to step us through the resolutions and broadly summarize what it is that we're about to vote on?
Yep. So before I get to the public, okay, let me just address that, state their name, the public, and remind everybody to speak only on the resolutions. Could the city manager speak to these resolutions 117 through 122?
Sure.
Or
sure. The first resolution 117, reappointment of a housing authority member. That's just another reappointment to one of the subcommittees that we have here. 118, award of a contract for summarizing and winterizing of McKay Pool. For those that don't know, we went out to bid for this. There were a whole bidding process, so this is being awarded now. It has to be awarded within the 60 days to the lowest responsible bidder. 119, refunds to state tax appeals.
You can address that if you like.
Go ahead, Bill.
That has to do with tax appeals that were filed with the State Superior Tax Court and judgments that were entered that resulted in refunds to certain property owners that filed appeals.
The following resolution 120, authorized state contract purchase of a new hydraulic rescue tools for the fire department. And this is one of many tools that, in order for the fire department to perform emergency services, as for those that are aware, especially during the last incident where there was a tree that tragically took a resident's life, these are some of the tools that they can use in order to perform those life-saving services. 121, authorizing participation in the Passaic County Co-op. This is one of, much like going through a state contract or a cooperative, the educational cooperative, this is just another resource that the city could use in order to, where we do not have to go through the bidding process and receive bids. We could use the vendors listed on this cooperative through Passaic County. I find those as a purchasing agent, I find those helpful when we're trying to move some things along and making sure that we get the best price qualified vendor. 122, issuance.
Hold on. Excuse me, Sonia. Hold on one
Sure.
second. 121. Does Bergen County have a cooperative pricing system?
I'm not aware. I've not heard of one. Unless Bill, you've heard of Bergen County having one? Yeah. It's not often that like the county specifically has it. It just happens that I've worked in the past with Passaic County Co-op for various services, and they do offer an array of vendors that I could go to depending on what it is the needs are. So, okay. And the following resolution, issuance of a liquor license, Yancy, if you want to go through that.
Sure. This is one of our liquor licenses that was having issues with their tax clearance last year, so they were unable to renew their license in time. So they had to get a special ruling from the director of ABC. Gotten their ruling. They've done all the proper paperwork that was needed. Now just the final step is the council approval so that they can go back to selling liquor.
Mr. Hamer, you okay with that now?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, so now, Yancy, we're gonna open this up to the public, just on questions on, comments on 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122. You have to state your name, your address, and you have 2 minutes to speak to these resolutions only.
Okay.
Yancy.
We have Rick.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I want to talk about 121. I mean, maybe somebody could explain this to me. Maybe the city manager could explain this to me. What is this cooperative pricing thing? I mean, why we got to go to Passaic County? I mean, when we're trying to do business right here in Bergen County, what is exactly this thing? Why are we going out of the county? What's the benefit? Hello?
Sonia?
Okay. This has nothing to do with jurisdiction. There are many cooperatives throughout the state of New Jersey, including the Morris County Co-op, where I've worked in the past, where fire equipment, salt, things like that. So, and then there's an educational cooperative, schools use it. So what it does, it just gives us an opportunity in order to use different vendors. That doesn't get us in a bad position where we need to go out to bid ourselves, because that takes up some time, right? So by the time we go out to bid, 10 days, then we have to award within 60 days. So rather than having that elongated period of time to go out to bid or even get requests for proposals, we could go to a cooperative and gather that. So cooperatives, what they typically do is you get a bunch of, let's say, towns together, and you could, you have a lead agency, which in this case is Passaic County Co-op, and they do the entire bidding process for you.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I don't like that. That doesn't sit well with me. I mean, here in Bergen County, there's enough, enough resources. There's enough businesses. There's enough brilliant people to where we could lead Passaic County. Okay, why is Passaic County leading us? I don't understand this, unless there's some kind of relationship with Passaic County or Morris County that somebody's trying to, access or utilize. And I don't know that, but I'm just thinking that would be the only reason. I mean, Bergen County pretty much sets the trend all over. When does Passaic County set the trend? So why can't we work here and strengthen Bergen County initiatives to where we have allies in Bergen County, and then we could pull Passaic County in? It doesn't make any sense to me. My mother always told me that service starts at home.
You could certainly contact Bergen County for that.
But that's your job. You don't think that's a great idea? You don't think that would be something to strengthen relationships within Bergen County and to work with people within the area?
If I may, you can join multiple cooperatives, by the way. So the CFO could look into Bergen County cooperative programs are available.
Do we know for a fact that there is no cooperative in Bergen County?
I do not know that for a fact.
Right. Well, that's the first thing I never thought I would say this, but I agree with Rick that if we did have a cooperative in Bergen County, I certainly would want to go to them first.
Correct. But I asked, that was my question. I asked, doesn't Bergen County have a cooperative? And nobody had an answer for that. Right. But to Bill's point, we can join many cooperatives. This just gives us an opportunity. But I think I think we should look into whether Bergen County has a cooperative. We should follow up on that and have an answer for that. And this is just a resource, right. But Bergen County, we should see if they have that as well. So I do agree with that, and we need to have that answer the next time we meet.
And listen, Ms. Morone, there's nothing wrong with agreeing with Rick. I tell you that.
Okay.
All right, you're going to learn something. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next. Nancy, anybody else?
Nobody else.
Okay, I'm going to close this part of the meeting, and I need a motion and a second.
Move to adopt by unanimous consent.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin?
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes. I declare the motion carried and the resolution duly adopted. I just want to make a comment here. I was approached about tree planting, and I in honor of people that we've had pass away during this year, COVID-19, and there's going to be more to come on that. But I think that since we are planting trees, we should plant them in the honor of residents that we've lost. We need to honor these people in that way. So thank you. Resolutions for discussion, appointment of traffic advisory committee members. Judy, I think that's your topic there.
Well, I must say I have.
Well, hold on one second. Hey, Bill, if we're talking names, we got to do that in closed session, right?
Appointments you can do in closed session.
Okay. So we have to.
Okay.
I believe we have to do that in closed session. Somebody have to put their thing on mute, please. We're getting some kids in the background. Next, we have 2021 outdoor dining fee waiver. Who's going to speak? Sonia, you going to speak to that? Or who's speaking to that?
Do you want me to talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, Yancy, sorry. Yancy, you could speak to that then.
My department licenses the businesses in town for the outdoor dining. We have started the process for sending out the renewals for this season, and we've received a request from the chamber, who received a request from the local businesses about waiving the fees again this year. So I'm bringing that to the council to see if that's something you would like to do again this year.
So we did a blanket waiver throughout the city?
Yeah, last year.
Okay.
We still required them to do the permits and the inspections to make sure everything was safe, but we just didn't charge them the fees. That was what we did last year. I just need to know if you'd like to do the same this year, because the request is coming from the local businesses.
Okay.
Can we get a sense of what the fees are?
Right.
So we know how much we're talking about?
$150 per license.
I'm sorry, 250 or 150?
150.
150?
And how many licenses do we typically give out, let's say in 2019?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd say about 30 to 40.
Okay, thank you.
Yancy, those are for what length of time?
Licensing season begins April 15th and ends October 31st.
So it's basically 6 months, huh?
Yeah. It's a long season.
I think that we should give consideration to, allowing the businesses every opportunity they can to, get going again. Everybody's hurt pretty hard. As a matter of fact, in addition to waiving these outdoor dining fees, it probably would be a good idea to contact the Chamber of Commerce and see about extending the outdoor sale, the Englewood Day sales that we've had every summer, and look at ways to take those opportunities outdoors. And I think it's a safer and interesting way to get business kick-started again for a lot of people who are struggling. And it's a safer way for a lot of residents and shoppers who may come to town and feel better about doing their shopping outdoors instead of inside in somewhat smaller spaces.
Right. Okay. So we got some work to do.
All right, Bill, would that require a resolution of the council maybe at the next meeting?
Yes.
If I can just make a statement?
Yes, please.
President Cobb?
Please.
So, I mean, we're not actually waiving the fees because we're losing revenue. We're essentially spreading out that revenue to everything else. That being said, I'm completely in favor of it because clearly eating establishments have taken more of a brunt of the pandemic than the rest of businesses in town and the rest of residents. So I'm definitely in favor of this. But I don't think it's just like waiving the revenue. It's just changing who's paying for it and spreading it out over 30,000 people and multiple businesses.
Yep.
But I am in favor of it. But I just want to be clear about what we're doing here, because it's money that's not coming in. Right. So that does need to be accounted for.
Yeah, I think we should really take some time out to think about how we could help all the businesses throughout the city, not just down in the downtown area. How we should see where we could help all the businesses, because all of them have been touched by this. So we need to really have some thought about this and bring some people in to help us think about this, how we could really help the businesses out. Any more on this topic? If not, we'll move on. Ordinances for discussion, there are none. Items for discussion, there are none. And now we'll open up to the public session.
I'm sorry, Council President, was there a motion on the fee waiver? Because I don't know.
No, because it's a resolutions to be discussed. So I think, Bill, what did you say, Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, well, if you wanted to act on it tonight, you'd have to have a motion to add it to add it to the agenda by unanimous consent and then vote on it, or you can vote on it at the next meeting.
Only reason I'm asking is because licenses are going to be issued or prospectively on the 15th. So that's next week, right, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, we can just have them fill out the applications and get them started. Normally what we do, because the inspection process takes longer, is we have them bring the applications in with the fee and then put their tables and chairs out, and then the inspectors go out as they have time. So we can.
Well, why don't we just do it tonight?
Yeah, the only concern is that a lot of people are ordering things for the outside, these businesses, so they've got some resources they've got to get ahead
So
of.
why don't we, Mr. Bailey, step us through it so we can do this tonight?
Yeah, I can, bear with me 1 second. You need a motion to add the fee waiver for outdoor dining by unanimous consent. So you need a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Want me to do an actual roll call?
Mr. Bailey, you want to do a roll call?
Bill froze again. Bill, you're frozen.
Do the roll call, Yancy.
Do the roll call, Yancy. Come on.
Mr. Cohen? Sorry, Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Marin?
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes.
And then
You're gonna articulate a resolution or just a motion and second, Bill?
yeah, I can just quickly articulate a motion, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Englewood that for the
Bill, you froze again.
within the municipal ordinances hereby waived.
I hope you wrote that down because you froze halfway through that.
Oh, okay. I didn't, but be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Englewood that the outdoor dining fees are hereby waived as are set forth in the city ordinances for the period of April 15th in the following 6 months.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Skip Councilman Cohen. Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer said yes. Councilwoman Marin?
Yes.
Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes.
Bill, do I count this as the next number resolution?
Yeah. Yep.
So this
Yeah,
was
so-
resolution number 123.
123. Okay, so next we'll go to the public session. State your name, address, and you have 2 minutes.
Clock going. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, first is Rick. Ricky?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Yeah. I want to say happy Passover to all my Israelite brothers and sisters that celebrate. You know, one of the things I love about Passover is getting rid of the leaven, out of my house. Leaven is equated to sin. And I know there's a lot of leaven in Englewood, primarily on the council. You have political corruption. You have misrepresentation. And, there's a lot of things that are wrong here in the city. But I got an email this morning from Jill Lauren. And, she was talking about the tree ordinance. Those are just some of the few things that are right here in Englewood. And I want to know if this city is finally going to adopt a tree ordinance or if we're going to continue to chop down clear cut trees and don't preserve anything. You talk about a historical preservation committee. Nothing historical has been preserved. The bulldozers are still working. I know you guys are putting the banana in the tailpipe, talking about Liberty School and Community Center. Those in the know it's a done deal. The fence is going to go around the property and, the political cronyism is going to win. over the wishes of the people. And it's just really heartbreaking that we have a council that doesn't represent the will of the people. You know, we have people that sit on the council with no experience, acting like it's beneath them to agree with a black man. All right. It's just really saddening and sickening all at the same time that this isn't Englewood. Okay. Everything you people do is contrary to the wishes of people. Nobody advocates for black and brown. Nobody advocates for the environment. Nobody advocates for fairness. Nobody advocates for the rule of law. None whatsoever. You know, you guys are basically just a bunch of criminals. I want you to know that. I love to remind you of that. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, next is Janine Ellis.
Good evening, Janine Ellis, 1 William Street, Englewood, New Jersey. I just wanted to first say thank you to Chief Larry Suffern and make that public for his years of service and dedication. He is a former classmate of mine, and I truly appreciate his work. Over the last several months, the past year, we have had so many things go on with the pandemic, with, you know, looking at budget, with, you know, the cry for a community center that's happened for years, just having to do life differently. I really feel like in Englewood, when it comes down to the parks, when it comes down to communication, when it comes down to people getting answers about the things that are important to the people, we're not getting those answers. And to me, that is a lack of leadership. I understand that our new city clerk, she's new. She's not new to being a city clerk, but she's new to Englewood. And I see that a lot of things get deferred to her for her to answer. But my thing is, I believe, if I'm correct, she serves at the will of the council. The council should be serving at the will of the people. And unfortunately, due to a lack of leadership, the people are not being heard. And that I take issue with. I walk around, I talk to people, I'm hearing all of the things that people are concerned about. And I just feel that we need to do better. We saw a beautiful ceremony in Tenafly against Asian hate. I attended a beautiful ceremony in Teaneck against Asian hate, where there were people from Englewood there. Englewood also has a growing Asian community that we have not addressed what's been going on. And yes, we have hate in many communities, Black communities, Jewish communities, it's happening. But those are things that people care about that we need to address and show that we care about. So with that said, I'm Janine Ellis, and that is why I'm running for city council at large. Have a good evening.
Nancy, next.
Okay. Next is Jill Lauren. Jill, go ahead.
We're good?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, hello, everybody. Haven't seen you in quite some time, and I hope everybody's doing well. I also wanted to say hi to the new city manager. I'm really thrilled we have a full-time city manager. So thanks for taking the job. Mr. Bailey, I have a question for you. Can you explain to me, give me a little background on the 200-foot notification to neighbors that is part of some of the land use or other ordinances in our city?
Yeah, primarily from a general standpoint, they're derived from the Municipal Land Use Law, which is a state statute that dictates that if someone's making an application to a board, they have to give written notice to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. Often by extension, that 200-foot marker is adopted other requirements throughout municipalities, but really that's kind of where it derives from primarily, is the Municipal Land Use Law, which really governs land use development throughout the state of New Jersey.
So why would we give neighbors notice?
Because it's required by state law.
But why would someone create such a law?
I can't speak to the legislature going back a few decades, but those hearings are generally subject to public hearings, which is why you typically would give notice within 200 feet. But again, was done by the state legislature.
Well, would it be fair to say that notice to neighbors is so that people have a chance to ask questions, review the ordinance, make sure things are being done properly?
If it's before planning or zoning board, that's what the requirement is. But for every permit or what have you that's issued throughout municipalities throughout the state, whether it's a Board of Health permit or anything else, most don't actually require 200-foot notice. It depends on the subject matter of the application.
So I'm only asking about the ones that do. And can you tell me what's the general length of time that people are given or that's required in order for people to have a chance to respond?
Well, they're notified of the date for a public hearing, which for land use applications, and I would defer to the planning and zoning boards, but that's typically 10 days.
10 days, okay.
But again, that's in the statute, it's not.
Well, here's the reason why I ask. And you all may remember that I was one of many people to work on the tree ordinance. You're asking me about time? Is that what you're saying? Well, I've been asking questions. So Mr. Bailey fortunately had some of my time, which was helpful because I was asking questions. Can I get some time from somebody else who might be on the call? Charlie, can I have time from your 2 minutes? Sure. Charlie just gave me his 2 minutes. Sorry?
We don't do that.
We've done it before. I've seen people give their time away. I can't ask a question in 2 minutes. What I'm trying to say is that our tree ordinance has no time requirement, and neighbors got notice on March 1st of a major cut that's been buzzed about around town, and then by March 5th the tree permit was issued. We don't even know if the neighbors got their letters. And by March 8th, the trees were down. That's not the spirit of a notice to neighbor. And Wayne, you may remember when you were city council president and we passed the tree ordinance, you said it's not perfect and we're going to work on it. This is an area that requires work, that our notice to neighbors is not working for the tree ordinance. And it's not in the spirit with which it was intended. And if we send out messages to neighbors and nobody has a chance to respond, it's disingenuous, and it's a wink and a nod to the builders.
Thank you, Joe. We'll continue to work on this.
Joe, we'll follow up on this. We'll follow up on this right away. We got Mr. Volsi on the line as well. We'll follow up on this, and we'll get you an answer back.
I'll call you guys and we'll figure out how this is going to work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Yancy.
Next is Peter Jensen. Peter, can you hear?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Yep.
First off, I'd like to thank Chief Suffren for his years and years of service and dedication to our city. And second, I'd like to just ask a question about the notes retired for bond sale. It was the first topic we talked about on page 1 of 1 in the bills list, the 28 million. My question is, what is the dollar value, or what's the impact, the dollar impact to the city based on the notes that are being retired? What's the prevailing rate for the notes that are being retired compared to the one we bought in at 1.47%? And the second part of the question is, if the prevailing rate were to go up by 1% next year, what's the dollar impact of savings for the city?
Gary, Mr. Vinci.
I think the rate of the notes that matured may have been about 0.6%. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can reach out to the city's financial advisor who prepared the various financial scenarios for the council with regard to the bond sale that took place last month. I know that the notes that the city also secured last month I believe the interest rate that they were able to obtain. Notes, remember, are just 1-year paper. The note, I believe, was 0.19%. So again, it's probably a historic low for the city in obtaining that interest rate.
Right, but by going to a longer term instrument, right? If we had to do it again, based on like what the prevailing rate, you had mentioned like a 2.9% rate. I mean, what are we talking about as the potential dollar impact then?
Well, the 2.9 was 2 years ago bonds. The bonds of this year were 1.45%, I believe.
Right, so I mean, what is that differential right there? Just so we have an idea of what the dollar amount is.
I don't have the difference, the amortization schedule that the FA would have for the city. I don't have that with me right now.
We'll get that. We'll get that to you, Peter.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
That's it.
Yancy,
Good evening.
we'll get it to you.
Next is Ainsworth Minot.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've been trying to be very patient for the last year, but my patience is running very, very low. I emailed almost every last one of you guys on this call, and the only person that responded to my email was the mayor, not the city manager, not the council president, and every other council member here I emailed. So there's something wrong with that. I emailed the city manager a few weeks ago. She never responded until the call. While we're in the council meeting, she responded. That's a problem with me. Second of all, from what's going on in our city of Englewood, it just bothers me that all these council meetings talk about everything else from trees to this, but we're not talking about the real issues. Why do we keep avoiding this big elephant in the room? We've been doing, the city manager's been here, what, less than 6 months? And her first task she did was to give the police department extra duty. Do you guys understand those marches I do every week is extra duty too that they didn't want to do? Do you understand that? That was every week. That was extra duty that people didn't even want to volunteer for. And you come in with 6 months and that's one of the first tasks you do, to give one of the most corrupt police departments in Bergen County extra money. These police officers are one of the most highest paid jobs in Bergen County, in this country. And that's what we're worried about? That's a problem. And I don't think it's just a problem for me too. And there's a problem when the prosecutor's office is taking over our department and they're doing the same thing Englewood Police Department is doing. That will not happen anymore. You guys are talking about businesses. There will be no businesses if you don't keep doing what you're doing. There will be no city of Englewood if you continue to do what you're doing and ignore the big elephant in the room. So everyone can look down on their papers, but it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different. And when everybody that did what they did get exonerated from it, from the prosecutor's office with Mr. Musella's signature, that's a problem. The hiding will not happen anymore. The cover-ups will not happen anymore. And we do not want Tim Terrell as our next chief. He's corrupt. He goes on computers, steal information. This is not going to continue to happen. And if you guys think this is what's going to happen, you guys are going to have to find another thing to do than be city council members, because it's not going to be an easy task anymore. Enough is enough. No response. You serve our city, but you don't respond to emails. What's the point? What's the problem of giving out your email or giving out your contact info? When you get the information, you just glance over it and don't respond. When are we going to wake up? When are you guys going to help us? You're going to wait till something major happens for you guys to wake up? Does someone have to lose their life in the city of Englewood, New Jersey for you guys to wake up? And if I have to sacrifice mine to prove a point to you guys, I'm going to prove a point to you guys, because obviously you guys are not taking me serious. You guys have a good night. I'll see you soon. Every last one of you.
Okay. Next is Diane Jensen.
Hi, good evening. Diane Jensen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. I just have a couple of things. First, I would like to really thank Chief Suffern for all his service, his professionalism, and just the ability to feel safe in the city. I hope that we have another chief that we can feel as safe with. He has big shoes to fill. So please do your job very diligently. Second, 2 minutes is a short amount of time, and I agree with Jill, Lauren, on that. We used to have longer time before we went to remote. And I'd like to know if you'd like the city to participate with the council and be involved with the council, why you're cutting our time. And then the third thing is about the Liberty building and calling it the Russell C. Major Liberty Center. That's what we'd like to see. And TNEC established a field house with a kosher kitchen. And the final cost of that field house was $1.8 million. And what they did was they issued an amount over 20 years where it came to $3 per resident per year. Now, if we have a community center that costs $15,000 and you use that kind of ratio, it comes out to $25 per person?
Per person per year.
Per year. $25 per person per year for a community center over 20 years. That sounds quite reasonable to me. Thank you.
Nancy.
Exactly 2 minutes. Okay, next is Alida Frizzell.
Can you hear me, Yancy?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can speak now, Council President?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Alida Frizzell, 99 Fairfield Street, Englewood. And I just wanted to say thank you to Council President Charles Cobb and Councilman Ken Rosenzweig. I saw that you went to the site where there was a traffic problem and I believe a gas leak. It was in the 2nd Ward. And I had seen that on Facebook. And you went right out. That's been taken care of now, am I correct?
I believe they're working on it. Mr. Volsi?
Okay.
Mr. Volsi?
Yes, it is still being worked on. As of yesterday, just a quick background. There are 5 more joints to be completed as part of the repairs. As we pointed out in, I guess, past meetings, it's 2 days per joint. So we're still looking at a couple more weeks of work out there. But according to the crew, the gas levels have reduced significantly to the point where they can reduce the vent stacks on the streets. And the installation of the steel plates, they're modifying that as well so that they reduce the noise level when vehicles ride over. So we still have a couple weeks to go, but they've made some great strides in getting that line together. And there's still talks, as I mentioned last time, of having the whole thing replaced. That is still something that we're talking about doing. But even though we're making strides, there's still a couple weeks left of work out there.
Mr. Volsi, while we have you there, if you could be so kind as to comment on the work by City Hall and some of the work that we're doing here.
Yes,
along that way, 'cause that jammed up everything.
As you mentioned, there's some work being done by Suez out of the city, just Van Brunt Street in front of City Hall. Again, much like PSCNG infrastructure, as in many cities, it's not just unique to Englewood. The infrastructure is just very old, and some of them are just starting to fail and show wear and tear. And that's what's happening with Suez's line as well. They have a main artery that runs through Englewood. It's a 24-inch line, pressurized main that runs through Englewood, and it's starting to fail at the joints. So they've started this work a month and a half ago. They started on Engle Street. They've worked through all the way down to Van Brunt now, and they're going to keep going south to keep repairing the joints. They move a little faster than PSCNG in terms of joint repairs. They've had some issues here on Van Brunt where the joints that they were repairing not only were worse than they initially thought, but other joints sprung leaks while they were out there repairing the initial repair. So they spent a little bit more time than they had to on Van Brunt, but they're scheduled to be out this week. So hopefully that'll be all taken care of. But that is an ongoing problem, not only in Englewood, throughout the state, throughout the country, where the infrastructure is aging and they're starting again. They're starting to fail.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fazell. You're finished?
I am, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to also say, it's a terrible loss we're facing. Our chief, Lawrence Suffern's retirement. He was absolutely great, very responsible, supportive, everything you could think of that was great. A great loss.
Thank you. Thank you. Yancy?
Okay, next is Leroy Campbell.
Mr. Campbell?
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if my question should be directed to Mr. Bailey, but I'm gonna state my question or my concern. If I'm a candidate running for city office and I get on a call like this and say what I want to say about, express my concerns, at the end of my concerns, am I allowed to say that I'm a candidate running for councilman at large or councilman? Because to me, that's campaigning. You're campaigning on a city council meeting as a potential candidate for a city council position.
I can respond, Council President, but maybe if Mr. Campbell has any more comments, he can complete those, then I'll answer all his questions to the best I can. Rather than
that's it. That's all I have. That's all I have.
Okay. If I may, Council President, public comment is very broad and gives the public a lot of opportunity to discuss many matters, generally that pertain to the city. So I can't give Mr. Campbell legal advice. However, his public comment, and if it pertains to the city, that would be up to him, but I would suggest that he consult his own attorney, because I'm just the city's attorney, not anyone's personal attorney.
Okay. I just find it very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yancy?
Next is Nathan Smalls.
Good evening. This is Nathan Smalls, 1 William Street, Englewood, New Jersey. Just wanted to also say thank you to Chief Suffern for his many years of service to the city of Englewood, and has done a tremendous job. Over the last 8 months, I've been working on a multi-million-dollar project in the Atlantic City region. I very frequently, and just about a few weeks ago, have spoken to at least 10 mayors in the South Jersey region. Every time that I mention I'm from Englewood, they always ask me, do I want to move? It is disheartening that our reputation from here to South Jersey is I don't want to say tainted, but they see the trouble that we're in, their comments. And just as a resident of this city, every time I'm in that area doing business, as we have a big project coming for Juneteenth, it's just disheartening that folks know every person on the council and they don't have any good words for what we're doing here. I just hope we find a way to answer questions to the residents. We have items on an agenda, and then when we're asked about them, no one has an idea. So again, Chief Suffern, want to thank him for his service, and I really hope Englewood can get it together. Thank you.
No one else has their hand raised, Mr. Cuff.
All right, we close this public session. Mr. Bailey, can you take us into closed session, please?
Yes, sir. Be resolved by the governing body of the city of Englewood that a meeting closed session pursuant to subsection 7 and subsection 8 dealing with litigation, personnel matters, matters of appointment, and matters within the attorney-client privilege, and be it further resolved, the discussion conducted in closed session can be open to the public upon taking final action thereon, provided it does not constitute an undue invasion of privacy or violate the attorney-client privilege. And be it further resolved that although the council will return to open session to adjourn, publicly adjourn the meeting, it is not envisioned that it will take any formal action at that time.
Need a motion.
Oh, Mr. Cobb, you froze.
We need a motion and a second to go into closed session.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're in closed session.
Evening all.
Gary.
Good night. Thank you, Mr. Dempsey.
Good night, Gary.
Gary, good night, Franz.
Good night, Franz.
Good night.
Good night, Franz.
All right, guys.